Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Therapy Podcast. This is Ryan Rutan, joined as always by my friend, the founder and CEO of startups.com. Oof, Will, the business of predicting the future is going out of business, right? Forecasting used to be like pattern spotting, right?
Uh-huh.
Markets were slow enough that a smart plan could outrun the variance, but AI is kind of collapsing that luxury at record pace. I mean, it feels like every assumption decays faster than I can even socialize it. Like, are you even thinking in terms of long-term plans anymore? Like, what's your take on this? Where are we going? What is happening right now?
I gotta tell you, I'm Mr. Future, right? I love the future.
Yes.
And for the first time, the future is scary. When I say that, it's both exciting and terrifying at the same time because I look at founders, and obviously we are in the thick of people building businesses at
Yes.
startups.com, right? All these people
Yeah,
are
yeah.
coming to us. And Ryan, how many people are you talking to right now that don't have an AI business right now? Like, it's freaking everybody, right?
It's everybody. It's blockchain and crypto all over again, right?
Exactly. But with a business model.
Yeah, with a business model. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's
But
exactly it.
what's interesting about it is it's not that, yes, AI has all these opportunities. It's that all these opportunities that are being created are also at the same time tearing away the very fabric and foundation of how we build businesses,
Yeah,
from how we get customers to who we employ to how we raise money to literally everything that we
yeah.
forecast and plan the future against is being devoured, ironically, by the very people that are building the future. A good example right now that, everybody talks about is this idea of developers basically digging their own graves or the graves of all other developers. Like every time
Yes.
Claude comes out with a new tool to write code so that they don't
Yep.
need more people to write code, it's like the other developers go, dude,
Yeah. Hey,
stop doing
guy.
that.
Yeah. Pump the brakes, homie.
Yeah. It's amazing.
No, it is. And to your point, like the pace at which this is happening has accelerated. I mean, if you go back even just 2 years now, I mean, like look at what's happened in 2 years when these tools became like very, very mainstream, right? When all of a sudden your aunt is now using ChatGPT to answer questions, right? Like it was a cool tool in everybody's hand.
Right.
And that was just 2 years ago. But when you look at the way that curve has accelerated between, oh, it can kind of put out some reasonable code now to it can put out an app now, it can now connect a backend database, it can now, right now it's full product, right? Just give it a spec
Correct.
and it's off. And so the sense that that horizon is becoming even shorter, that the future is becoming more and more cast in fog. At this point, man, my plans just feel like guesses with better font. Like that's all it feels like at this point. It's like, why am I bothering to write this shit down? By the time I do, it's probably obsolete.
I think there is a sense of excitement, but a cloud and fog of anxiety coming behind it. Okay, so now for a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
the folks that listen to this podcast, they're all founders, obviously. There's a ton of jubilation, but what we get to see is we also get to see the other side, where we get to kind of get behind the curtain with people, and they're like, "Huh, didn't see that coming," right? Or a lot of people with existing businesses that are like, "Huh, here's a great one. You want a great one? How about being at Google right now, where you've
yeah,
got one guy in one room, okay,
yep,
trying to build the best, most amazing AI engine ever, while the other guy in the other room, who, by the way, has the job that pays all the bills called search,
yeah,
is getting cannibalized by him." And it's like, dude,
yeah.
what are you
What's
doing,
going on here?
right?
You're literally watching the snake eat its tail in real time.
It's unbelievable. So this episode is going to be about not just the fact that AI is doing all these great things. It's also going to be talking about how many things AI is about to make much more difficult for us and the forecastability of founders and kind of what we're seeing across the board for founders, that this isn't all, sunshine and rainbows. There's some really big problems that this is creating for us to be able to forecast and build businesses. So let's start with all of the foundations that we've been used to forecasting against, like the big ones that have all gone away, are crumbling the fastest. You're our
Yep.
chief marketing officer at startups.com. Let's talk about the marketing pillars first. What could you count on first? What's going away?
Yeah, I mean, like organic search is becoming eviscerated, right? That was something that if you had taken the time to build that, you had a fairly defensible castle there, right? Like it
Right.
it takes a long time to build, but then if you're paying attention to the shifts, you could kind of say, okay, well, like yeah, we're losing some traffic here. Okay, let's bolster that. Let's build some new content. Let's make a microsite. Let's do whatever. just getting shot to pieces. And so what you would typically do in that place is say, okay, well, right now somebody's just eating our lunch, so we'll just buy it back. We'll just
Yeah.
switch over to paid search until we buy that back. But when nobody's searching, what do you do?
When
Right?
nobody's searching. And Ryan, think of how many businesses that affects, right? So we are an online business. Like, oh, you're those tech guys. Dude, it affects plumbers, right? It affects everybody that has anything to do with, the internet drives your business, which is kind of almost everybody.
And it's happening across channels, right? So one of those things that everybody's getting excited right now because the barriers are getting so much lower, right? So this is one of the things that you were saying before. Founders are excited about the fact that, like, look, I can code now. I couldn't code before. So can everybody else.
So can
I
everybody
can
else.
crank out 10 times as much social media content now than I could before. So can everybody else,
That is the
right?
biggest
Just keep
problem. Yep.
inserting that everywhere you look, right? And the inundation of content, people are just becoming blind to content now. Like, it was already tough, right? The last
Yeah.
5 years in terms of what it takes to capture someone's attention has become extremely hard.
Yep.
In the last year, it has become damn near impossible unless you happen to be the end result in a chat GPT conversation, right? The chance that somebody's just going to come and visit you has become significantly lower, and significantly,
I agree.
exponentially lower, right?
You know what's funny is yesterday, all these podcasts also double as a newsletter that we send out to all of our
Yes.
members. And yesterday, one of our members wrote back and said, "Will, I got to be honest, this sounds like ChatGPT." Right. And he cited a couple of things in the newsletter that
Yeah.
sounded like ChatGPT. And I said, you know what's the most embarrassing thing? It's not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like the
No,
most
I took the
embarrassing
time to
thing
write this so that it could
is I
look like
actually
AI
did
content.
write that,
Yeah.
right? And I joked them. I said, maybe I'm spending so much time these days with ChatGPT that I'm inheriting ChatGPT, like their nuances. But what I'm saying is, even my own prose doesn't sound like me anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
it actually is me. That'd be like us, somebody watching this podcast, and make honestly, it doesn't even sound like you guys anymore. Like,
Yeah.
god damn,
I can
man.
tell I can tell by the way Ryan's looking directly into the camera that that's just eye contact, right? He's not really doing that. Of
Yeah.
course
Oh
I
my
am.
god, damn.
Taken years of practice to learn to do this, and now it
Yeah,
doesn't matter anymore
I
because
know.
NVIDIA can just make that happen no matter what.
I know. And so I say this, okay, so that's one pillar. And we just, I mean, scratch the surface. One pillar was if I launch a business, whatever it is, I have certain places I can count on to either develop or buy traffic, right?
Yeah.
I can get traffic to my thing.
Yep.
And for a very long time, that was a fairly well understood mechanic foundation. Now it's kind of going away, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at some other pillars because that's just one. And you touched on something that I don't want to let go. When it's easier for you, it's
Yeah.
easier for everyone else, and it becomes a race to the bottom. Okay.
Yes.
So, oh, I can post on social media easier. I can make responses to people's comments on my social media easier. So can everyone else. And they
Yeah.
will really quickly, really poorly. Ryan, how many of the comments on your social media, your LinkedIn, whatever, are actual people anymore?
Maybe I'm not kidding. 5 to 10% max. Right.
That happened in
And
five
what was
seconds,
interesting is that,
man.
like, right, and that so this is one of the funniest things. So when people started using AI to post a lot more content, they were like, and it's getting engagement. And then if you go and look at the engagement, that's all AI nonsense, right? That's not actually engagement. So, everybody's really excited about it. They were like, look, I can just crank out stuff that sounds kind of like me, and I'm getting better engagement than ever. No, you're not. Not when
Yep.
you actually peel back the curtain there and go, the Wizard of Oz is standing back here commenting on behalf of everyone. That was my chat GPT talking to everyone else's chat GPT. Neat. What have we done here? Nothing. Dude, the signal to noise ratio has never been further out of whack. Right. Like,
Right.
on the other hand, it's kind of like walking through a garden in November and finding like a ripe strawberry out there. It's like when you do find something, you appreciate it so greatly. It's like, God, I haven't seen these. I haven't seen these since June. This is amazing. Right. But it's so rare and they're so hard to find. And there's not like a reliable way to do it. And I think that's what's really frustrating a lot of marketers right now is that, like, even if you want to do the right things, even if you are building high quality content and just really good stuff, your ability to accurately distribute that to people and have them know is almost zero.
I agree.
So it's becoming so frustrating that people aren't even trying at this point. I'm watching tons and tons of marketers mail it in, not because they're not capable, not because they don't want to, but because it gets the same damn result. So why not? And that really scares the shit out of me.
Okay, let's take that then. So marketing is becoming an imploding foundation. right?
Yes, it is
At a way
crumbling
like
in on
the
itself.
very tools that were supposed to make it better are
Yes.
actually eroding it. Okay.
Oh, completely.
Big time. So that's not a small one, guys. That's a giant one. Next up, as part of building a business, we're going to hire talent. We're going to hire humans. Okay. Now this has a two-sided concern to it. One was, well, I need to hire. This is again internet companies, but whatever. I need to hire developers. I need to hire marketers. I need to hire ops people and hire all these people. And now it's like, do I? What would they do? Remember, everybody had the consummate social media manager.
Yeah, yeah.
What does that person do anymore? Right? Like it's become less of a bot. Now, again, I'm not knocking the social media manager. Let's move over to the developer. Okay.
Yeah.
Ryan, you've been cranking out stuff in Lovable as an example,
Yep.
right? If you were building a new company 5 years ago, there's absolutely none of what you've been cranking out that you could have done
Oh,
by
wasn't
yourself
possible.
at that level, like connect to a
No, no.
database layer or anything else like that.
Nope. Let alone make it responsive, all the other
Dude,
things, right? There's
like,
there's so many things that
forget
wouldn't have
about
been
it, right?
possible.
No
Yep.
different than prior to Shopify. You, in order to get that level of e-commerce and CMS and
Yep.
everything else like tied to that, no way. And it's damn near free. That's the other side of it, right? This isn't like HubSpot pricing.
It's so cheap that it's inconsequential. Like the cost of it doesn't actually matter.
So who are you hiring for that is part of your new company,
Yeah.
right? And are you hiring somebody? Because if you do, like, and then you find out 5 minutes later that their job is a prompt now, what's that
Yeah.
look like? Right.
Right.
And then the converse, if you are that person, the social media manager, the developer, like people who are fundamentally the staples of
Yeah.
our ecosystem, of our startup world, right? Every startup weekend, right? You know, we always talk about startup weekend. I don't even if it's around anymore. There was always a social person, a marketing person, a developer person, a product
Yeah.
person, whatever.
Like you're putting together your role playing team.
Yeah,
It's
exactly, right?
like
Yeah, your Dungeons and
gotta
Dragon
have a
party, right?
warrior, a mage.
And all those people are unemployed now. It's bizarre. And,
Yes.
and the reason I'm bringing this up is because definitely a fundamental pillar of building a company was hiring people. Now, there's
Yeah. Yeah.
some people
I
listening,
mean,
Ryan, and they're going to say, "Well, that's bullshit. I'm still hiring people, etc." I get it. We have a staff. It's not like we have nobody
yeah.
that works here,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's getting weird. It's
It
getting
is.
weird,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not pointing this toward our staff. I'm saying for startups as a whole,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's getting weird to say, what are we hiring for? At startups.com, we don't have a single open position because we can't figure out who we'd even hire.
Right.
How weird is that?
Yeah. Yeah. You're constantly trying to figure out how the people you already have probably could and should or are already doing more than they ever were before. And so just by virtue of some of those productivity increases. Now, again, like I said before, some of those actually come with performance drops, right? Meaning that like I can crank out 10x the content that I ever could on LinkedIn, and it'll get 20x the engagement it ever did with absolutely zero meaningful results, right? So
Right.
there is that side of it. But it seems like all of those productivity gains and all of this like expanded capability just erased future hiring needs, at least for the foreseeable future, which again, he's now like, dude, do we have a roadmap anymore? I feel like our roadmap is just an etch-a-sketch being written by somebody in a really bumpy ass car, right? Like it's just constantly
Things
erasing
shaking. Yeah.
itself because yeah,
It's a
it's
great
just a
metaphor.
self-shaking etch a sketch. That's what we're
Yeah.
building our roadmaps on at this point. How the hell do you hire against something like that?
Buddy, let's go back 5 years. Let's go back to
Oh
COVID,
my God.
right? Where it was just a hiring spree, where people needed 400 engineers to build a venture funded company,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And what I'm getting at here is not that you don't need to hire anybody. I'm not saying that. I'm saying one of the fundamental pillars of building a startup was hiring a ton of people, or at least hiring
Yeah.
at all, right?
Yep.
And that whole world is getting so twisted and turned upside down. And again, this episode is about the predictability. It's about
Yeah.
stuff we used to be able to just say, yes, you will need that, or yes, it's a known. And we're going, the hell just happened? What the hell just happened?
Bring it back to hiring at this point. Like if I were to think about a person that I'm not already working with, one of the number one things on the top of my list would be swappability, right?
Yeah.
Like as I'm thinking about a human stack, like this person has to be swappable, right?
Yep.
I
They
have
had to
to
be
contract
extensible.
for outcomes at this point, not roles. It just
Yeah.
has to be like outcome driven, which may only be 2 or 3 weeks worth of work, but that's as far as we can see, as far as I'm going to plan. That's as far as I can hire, if hire is even really it. Like at this point, contracting would be where it's at for me, not full-time roles. Because honestly, like I wouldn't feel comfortable, I wouldn't feel responsible hiring somebody when I know that the whole thing that I'm going to have them doing might get completely eviscerated, obliterated within weeks, right? That feature that we're specking out or that campaign that we're building out might turn into a prompt next week, or it might just become completely irrelevant because now ChatGPT does the thing that we were planning on marketing, right? Who knows?
Okay, so let's stick with that because you're now talking about the next pillar, which is product, right?
Yeah.
It used to be that if we took the time to build and invest in a product, that we had some level of understanding that that product would be relevant for some period of time. A moment ago, you and I were talking, prior to the show, we were talking about TurboTax, right? We were
Yep.
talking about products that, like, been around forever,
Yeah. Yeah.
forever. That thing has been the world's
Yep.
greatest cash cow. Intuit is actually just the amount of money that company has made on
Yeah.
friggin' TurboTax, which
Yes.
is a dog shit piece of software
Yeah.
that I've used religiously for decades, right? It might as well come on a 3.5-inch floppy disk, right? I
It
mean, it's
probably still
so
does because they haven't updated the
probably
product enough
still
to, make it worth having a CD.
But I say this, they have an understanding, they have a pact with the market that says this product does this thing and we do this thing in the market, and you know us, you trust us, and for better or for worse, for the price point that we offer, this is the most efficient way to do this thing. And that pact is held true. And then it didn't. Right? Now, look, software consumes itself all the time, but this one's different. This is like it gets consumed and then gone forever.
Yeah.
How is an entire tax planning industry getting consumed forever? And I'm just picking on one randomly. Yesterday, and again, I'm kind of date stamping this a little bit. We're in Q1 of 2026. The Washington Post let go a third of their staff, right? Most people
Yeah.
don't notice these headlines. I watch all this stuff. And they said part of what's happening is that people aren't searching anymore. They're just using AI. And that's just the Washington Post. And that obviously affects everybody with an information business. They can no longer deliver news because the people that would look for news don't even go to the internet to
Right.
them, right? They got subsumed by AI and chat. Think about how many entire industries just vanished, like Thanos snapping his finger,
Yeah.
right? Whoa. You can't even rely on the fact that if you build a product, that the entire market won't just implode. Dude, in a year,
Yeah, in a year, right? That's right now. So this
that's
is where I
happening
think
right
it's
now.
absolutely crazy to think about. Again, the curve is getting steeper and steeper. It's accelerating. And so, watching an industry implode in a year might happen in a week by this time next year, right? Because the speed, the adoption, and the rate of change is just continuously accelerating at this point.
Something that's really funny about everything we talk about here is that none of it is new. Everything you're dealing with right now has been done 1,000 times before you, which means the answer already exists, you may just not know it, but that's okay. That's kind of what we're here to do. We talk about this stuff on the show, but we actually solve these problems all day long at groups.startups.com. So if any of this sounds familiar, stop guessing about what to do. Let us just give you the answers to the test and be done with it.
The last one I want to touch on, again, and we'll just kind of like lay out all the ones, is investment. I think this one's just fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not being talked about
Yeah.
enough. Investment. If you're an investor right now, and you are definitely one of the pillars of the startup ecosystem, you've got to be saying AI is the greatest thing, so many opportunities. But if you're watching all of these other pillars fall, there's got to be a part of you going, well, where's my capital go exactly? Because
Yeah.
my capital actually went to all of those things Will and Ryan just described. I
Yep.
put capital in marketing, I put capital in people, and I put capital in product. If those things don't make sense anymore, where does that money go exactly? Data
Yeah.
centers.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, yeah, it goes to compute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When talent shifts from headcount to headless, product shifts from apps to prompts and agents, and distribution goes from search to synthetic answers. It's like, what are you putting your money into at that point,
That's a
right? Like,
problem.
truly.
Now, again, you can look on the other side of it and say, not a problem for me. I'm a founder. I didn't want to deal with those guys anyway. And you would be correct. Right? You
Yes.
would be correct. Right? Amen. However, that is a fundamental institution within the startup ecosystem that is losing a home. Now, I'm sure you have no lack of investors that will say that is totally untrue And here's a whole thesis where so many industries will be built that will require so much capital, yada, yada. Believe some of that. I believe,
Yeah.
yes, there are some foundational layers that you're seeing right now that will require a voluminous amount of capital. But if every one of those foundational pillars is all being consumed at a record rate, and by way of that, their efficiency is taking away cost, I have a hard time believing that the need for capital is going to become exponential or more so anytime soon. Anytime soon.
As all of the costs and all of the traditional cost-based barriers to starting a startup are reduced geometrically, exponentially, the idea that cash still needs to be part of the picture becomes a lot harder unless we're just going to start compensating founders for taking risk, right? Which I'd be okay with that, right?
It's this weird thing because it's almost like if you're a VC and you're looking at 4-year projections and more so the use of funds that people are raising for, and obviously raise amounts have gone up geometrically. I mean, we are in the business
Yeah.
of helping people raise, so we see it. And you're looking at use of funds. There's got to be a version of you that's like, I want to give more. I want to write bigger checks because that's how I raise bigger funds. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like, have you not seen what's going on in the world?
How? Yeah. Yeah. What are you going to spend it on?
Yeah, like I loved when you hired 400 engineers. That worked great for me as an
Yeah.
investor because you needed lots of me, right? But if you need 400 engineers now to do whatever the hell it is you're doing, unless you're building some foundational layer, I'm shocked.
Play that out for a second, Will. You're far more versed in this space than I am. Because what we saw, right? It's not like now that rounds are exponentially larger, and they are, right? When
Yeah.
rounds became exponentially larger, it's not like the investors started taking exponentially more of the cap table, right? They're taking the same chunk of the cap table.
Yeah.
The rounds just got more expensive overall. Valuations were higher. All this was higher. Now, I guess theoretically, the final outcomes maybe became geometrically larger. In some cases, maybe exponentially larger. But the odds didn't change any, right? It's not like because we're pouring more money into these companies, they're more sure of succeeding. So did anything actually change? And so it's theoretically, could we just see a regression to the mean where the rounds become much smaller, but so do the initial valuations? Which would actually make all the sense in the world because the risk profile is going to go up significantly more because this app you're building, this software, this company, this whatever could be wiped out by something else really, really quickly because that time to deploy, time to build, all those things we just talked about are so much faster. So theoretically, that is one place within startupdom that I could actually see normalizing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely see a rubber band on that one. And the
Yeah.
reason being is because when AI first comes out and everyone's like, oh, we're going to do this, but with AI. And we say this to startups all the time. So founders listen, if you're doing AI stuff, we say, yes, that's true right now. You're doing law something, but with AI. Cool. Yes, absolutely. Makes a ton of sense. You do understand that within 24 months, that's how everyone will be doing law, right? The
Yeah.
fact that you're doing it, it's exactly like saying, but we'll be selling books online. Yes, but eventually
Of
everyone, that's
course.
how
If
you'll
you
sell
sell
books.
books, they will be online. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly right. You
Yeah.
have to be,
Yeah.
you have to take it beyond that.
And man, that's the thing that I think is so fascinating right now is and it's not just that AI as a whole becomes table stakes, but so many things that were problematic or challenging from a cost or complexity standpoint, they're becoming table stakes left and right, right? Left and right. And so I think that just again, it just makes it so hard to see around the corner. We're moving so fast and the corner's so sharp at this point. Folding back to predicting the future now, but it's so complex.
Well, so if you and I build AI TurboTax and we're going to say
Yeah.
we're coming after Intuit, we're going to take their market share, et cetera, then right now in this very moment in 2026, we by all means have justified the upside potential of our
Yep.
valuation. What I'm saying, the rubber band happens when you fast forward to 27, 28,
Yeah.
when everyone can do what we're doing. And our defensibility to have taken, including Intuit, by the way, can do that. How do we maintain our defensibility? How do we maintain our moat when the moat has lowered for everybody? That's where it gets way more interesting.
Exactly it. Right now, AI might be a competitive advantage for some companies that are just moving a little faster and not even a lot.
You bet.
But it compresses build time, right? But it shrinks moats, or in some cases, it's going to completely dry them up, right? And turns products into features, like full-on products. Like you think about that, like the fact that TurboTax is a product, right? That may not even be a product category anymore. That might just be part of personal financial suite, and just literally everything happens there. Your banking's there, your
Yep.
taxation's there, your
Yep.
savings there, your investments, right? Because we're seeing products getting turned into features at machine speed at this point,
Right.
right? Which is crazy.
I agree. Now, here's what happens. All of these things, all of these pillars, all of these changes, as they start to drop, it starts to compound anxiety. And watch what
Yes,
happens. Right now, we are in this, oh my God, this party is going to be amazing. The hangover hasn't happened yet. Okay.
right.
Ryan, I think you're starting to see the first bits of it. It
Well, I'm
was,
feeling it.
oh my God, I can create more content on social. And then you're like, wait a minute, hold on. So can everybody else. Oh my
Yeah,
God, I can do this thing in there's one new AI app. Yeah, so can
yeah.
everybody else. I think what will start to happen is we'll start to see this compounding anxiety where founders start to go, wait a minute, now everybody can do this. That's a problem, right? And that's when things start to get really interesting. When everybody has the machine gun, right? Like war becomes a lot more complex. And I think that's where we're headed next.
I feel like we're at that point in the arms race where everybody looks around and goes, shit, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
we're all armed to the teeth, which just means we're all going to face a lot of pain because of this. Yeah, no, I think the compounding anxiety thing is huge right now. And I think there's still a lot of people looking around for certainty, which look, never really been part of the startup space, right? Even if you thought that it was, there are a few things that are certain. None of them are fun. But I think at this point, we have to give up on certainty a little bit. And what I'm looking for, instead of certainty, I'm saying what I need is cadence. All right. I need
What does
cadence.
that look like for you?
It's essentially like decision making frameworks. It's how we're deciding what to keep, what to kill, and getting into, like going from quarterly strategies to monthly strategy and to weekly tactics. You and I
Yeah.
talked about this before on the
Mhm.
podcast. We plan in week long sprints, right?
Yeah.
You and I down manages their time on weekly schedules, which helps, right? And so having that cadence and basically going back to what I said before around the human component of swappability,
Right.
really all of my plans are modular and component based at this point. They have to be, because I need that cadence. I need to have that cadence in place so that if something does need to swap, I'm not starting again from fresh plan. It's okay. The plan was go get traffic for this. This is still valid. This still needs traffic, but that thing we were going to use to go get traffic isn't. So we don't need to start from zero, but we have to have something else that we can plug in there
Right.
really quickly. So I can't be certain that a quarterly plan around social media traffic acquisition is going to work. So I need a cadence of an operating cadence that allows me to quickly act on those changes.
I think it's interesting though, because we get all of these different folks that are part of the ecosystem with a very uncertain future at the same time.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
talked about this a moment ago with these
yep,
pillars falling, and that's why we opened up the conversation there. Because again, if you're an investor, and investors seem to be very cocky about the future, but there's no version where you're sitting there going, "Oh, this is all going to work out great." If Ryan, if you and I had a fund right now, yes, there are so many industries ripe for the picking, right? If we can invest in the person who takes over TurboTax, we're going to do great. Our concern would be in then what? What happens
yeah,
after that, right? Like how do they stay relevant? How do they stay on top? And we'll be good for a minute. The second part is we're in the business of deploying lots of capital. Like that's specifically what we do. Capital efficiency actually isn't necessarily our friend, right? When
yeah,
startups needed to hire 400 engineers to be competitive, that actually kind of worked for us, right?
yep.
They needed a lot of us, right? The other compounding anxiety, and again, these are all the players in the same space at the same time, kind of freaking out a little bit. If you are a developer right now, right, who is the holy grail, most protected made man there was in the startup ecosystem, right? The rock star developer, right? Like you were
Yeah, yeah.
literally gave the rock star developer, okay, that you had that level of credence. And you're worried about your job. And how could you not be, right? If that was my trade, if I was specifically writing code and I'm sitting in front of all these tools and be like, dude, that's literally, I'll give you a perfect example
Yep.
because I actually lived this. I lived this in Ryan, you'll appreciate this. In 1999, I was running a large web design firm.
Yep.
And on average, we were getting paid somewhere around $1 million to build what's essentially like a brochure website for like massive
Yep.
brands, right?
Yep.
And you know this is going. And one day, one of our designers comes in and he's like, hey, man, I stumbled upon this site called templatemonster.com. And these templates are actually really good. They're like in some cases better than what we design. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and it's $100. I'm like, $100 for what? He's
Uh-huh.
like, the whole thing.
The whole thing. Yeah. Every single PDF or
Pixel.
PSD
Yeah.
file you need to do this.
Is
Yeah.
like full HTML and like, at the time JPEGs and whatever. And I'm like, huh. Right. That's exactly the way I would feel right now if I was a $250,000 or a $500,000 a year developer and
Yeah.
I sat and saw what Claude did last week, and I'd be like, right? Now, granted, I'm not saying there's no value in those folks. I'm saying you lose the premium. The
Right, right, right.
premium always comes with the fact that there's not enough of you. Right? It's just that
Yeah.
simple. There's not enough of
Yep.
you. Or if I just graduated with a CS degree and I'm jumping into a market where I was told 5 seconds ago that this is where all the jobs are, and the people that are veterans in this space are like, dude, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
Doesn't give you warm fuzzies. No, that's gonna drive serious anxiety. And I think we're starting to see that some of the thinking around is already not aging particularly well. And this thinking's only, maybe 9 months old, which was, okay, look, this isn't gonna take your job. It's just gonna make you be able to do 10x more of your job. Maybe true, but it also implies that there's a need for 10x more of your job times the number of people who also have your job and the number of people who want your job. Right? It doesn't change that, right? Like just
It's
because we
musical
can
chairs,
develop
man.
more, right? Just
Right?
because we can write more content doesn't mean like I can write 10x more content. Cool. Do people have 10x more time to read? Because if not, what the hell are we going to do with all of it?
It's really interesting. And so, what I'm pointing out here, this lack of forecastability is coming on top of these pillars are dropping. The folks that are the cornerstones of this ecosystem are getting awfully anxious for good reasons. And,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
say this, Ryan, because I love doing episodes where we just talk about how great AI is. And I do believe it. I think that, AI in a whole is
It's
phenomenal.
great. It is.
But I also want to point out shit's getting a little gnarly, man. Right?
It is.
There's some
It
stuff
is
happening behind the scenes that no one's really talking about, and there's more of it than people realize.
a lot. There's a lot more. Like here's one. All right. I was talking to a group of other founders the other day about this. When founders, teams, investors, vendors all together can no longer price risk, commitment melts, man. Right? Again, it's that compounding anxiety. Everybody has that commitment, and nobody wants to be the sucker who bets on a product that becomes a friggin' plug-in, right? And so one of the concerns then is, do we actually start to see a slowdown in the rate of like overall progress in thinking and development, right? The thing we haven't seen yet is that AI is not out there just going, well, I just figured out this problem that people have. I'm going to go solve it all by myself. Maybe it will get there, right? Not yet, right? But it's still people deciding and people chasing real problems and people having those problems. And so I think that it's a super interesting thing to think about, is that as you start to take away the incentives, bad things can start to happen. We saw this. Here's a parallel. I don't remember the timing on this. I probably used to. But at the point when which we started to take away financial incentive from teachers, the US educational system started to decline very, very seriously. Right. And we started to do the same thing within medicine. The medical outcomes started to decline seriously. We take away the financial incentive from innovators and technologists, what happens, right? We'll see the same thing play out again. And I'm afraid that's what we're running towards at this point.
Here's what I'll say though, and you touched on this. It turns out that of all the people that are kind of, have this compounding anxiety, the one group that happens to be very well suited to all of this
Oh,
are
yeah.
founders. Like of all the people that were like built for risk, that were built for chaos, that were quite like specifically built to like constantly look for problems and constantly figure out how to tear shit up, are
Yep.
founders.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
granted, those founders, they need help from all those people, and that's always been the way. But I would argue, and I find this fascinating, that if there's ever a time for the people who had it in them, who basically starve for chaos,
Yeah.
this is your moment, man. If you are built like that, I think I mentioned this once long ago. There was one of the greatest commercials I've ever seen, and it was for the Marines. And it showed this huge explosion, right? And all this smoke and dust, and it showed all these people running away. and then it just panned in on this one guy's face, and he looked at the camera, and then he looked at the smoke, and he just started running directly to it. And they basically said, for the people who run toward, not fear or something like that. And it said US Marines, right? And I was like, that's the most badass commercial I've ever seen in my life. That's kind of what I picture right here.
Feels like where we're at right now. Yeah. And look, to your point, like, this is what we're here for, right? We're here to solve problems. And if what we're saying is that, wow, this is taking away our ability to solve them like we did, it's going to create a whole bunch of new problems,
A whole
right?
bunch of new problems.
Like unemployment, like
Yeah,
income,
man.
like you name it. Like there's
Yep.
going to be all kinds of brand new problems that are created that are going to need solutions at some point. And so I think that's part of this is, if I'm trying to use a crystal ball at this point, I'm not looking at, okay, how do we keep doing exactly what we're doing in the context of AI? Like with all the changes that AI require, I'm like, okay, what happens when we stop doing all this stuff,
Yep.
right? What does that look like, right? Let's solve those problems because they're coming. I can't predict exactly how they arrive or why or when, but you can sort of see the writing on the wall at this point. There's going to be some really big ass problems. And to your point, that's what we're here for. This is what we do.
We're in the problem business. So if you
Yep.
look around, reverse everything we just said on this show, right?
Yeah.
Reverse that and say, hey, investors are going to have problems. Dude, let's think about becoming an investor that's capital efficient, right?
Yeah.
People are going to have problems being able to find customers. Marketing is going to change. Let's become a new type of agency that figures out how to get people in this new category, right? People are going to have a problem finding employment. Let's become a new type of recruiter that recruits like in that business. In every one of these situations, when things get upended, there are more problems, and we are in the problem business, right? Like that is what we actually specialize in. So when I'm saying that there's a lack of forecastability, there is a tremendous lack of forecastability, right? But with that, it just so happens that the only people that are actually built and suited for this massive bit of compounding chaos are us, right? Like, and we can look at this like, oh shit, this is hard to forecast. Or we can look at this and go, dude, it's party time. I'm running straight toward this thing, and it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be kind of weird, but this is what I'm built for, and this is what I'm going to focus all of my time and energy toward, and I'm going to run toward this problem while everybody's running away. I'm going to run toward it, and I'm going to go build shit in the hardest time ever. I'm going to build the biggest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Overthinking your startup because you're going it alone? You don't have to, and honestly, you shouldn't, because instead, you can learn directly from peers who've been in your shoes. Connect with bootstrapped founders and the advisors helping them win in the Startups.com community. Check out the Startups.com community at www.startups.com to see if it's for you. Could be just the thing you need. I hope to see you inside.